Hello, this is George, and this is a quick video concerning the Pattern Smasher 2024 Black Friday special that I am offering. Several of the purchasers had a few questions about how to combine the different patterns that you can derive from the Pattern Smasher framework. And in my Black Friday special, I do include a strategy where I was able to combine four individual patterns, independent patterns, you get the strategy. But if you look at the strategy and you're not, that versed in easy language, it may not make a lot of sense. So I thought I'd create this video real quick. And we're going to be discussing hypothetical performance. So just read this real quick. This is the CFTC, and they tell you about the limitations of hypothetical performance. And also, because we are using the Pattern Smasher as a data mining tool, we're trying to uncover patterns that are repeating and have a positive expectancy. And just the act of doing that, only picking those that do have a positive expectancy, we're kind of cherry picking to a degree, and we're just hoping that this data mining has some type of either seasonality component or market action after a certain pattern that carries through time and time again. Who knows if this will carry forward, but it is a fascinating tool if you believe in patterns. Okay, and the most important pattern, I think, is looking at the relationship of the last few closing prices, and that's what we do with the Pattern Smasher 2024 Black Friday special. Let me go real quick in how this is used. I've got a pattern code description. This is where I translate bars into formulas. Formula 1, which is right here. The first one, that is close greater than the prior day's close. If that is the case, if today's close is greater than the prior day's close, then that's going to be set to 1. If it's less than or equal, it's going to be set to 0. On day 1, going back in time, is close of yesterday greater than the prior day close? If true, that's going to be set to 1. If not, it's going to be set to false. And then we're only dealing with 3 patterns, so we'll ignore day 3. Day 2 is formula 3, is the close of the day before yesterday greater than the day before that. And if it is, then we put a 1 there, else it is 0. And as you can tell, this is a binary looking number. So if we have 1, 1, 1, that means today's close is greater than yesterday's close, and the yesterday's close is greater than the day before that. I'm ignoring formula 4 because we do not include that in the Black Friday special. But this binary code right here would be, in decimal, would be 1 plus 2 plus 4. So that would be, what is that? 4, 5, 6, 7. So that would be the number 7. And so I did the analysis and I came up with 4 different patterns. Pattern 1 is to go long, because these patterns, because we have a prediction bar. We have prediction bar 1, prediction bar 2, and prediction bar 3. That's out into the future. Sometimes these are very large positive results. Sometimes they're very large negative results. If they're very large negative results, you want to go short on those patterns. So the first pattern I found was pattern number 2, which is 0, 0, 1, 0. Decimal representation is 2. Pattern code is today's close is less than or equal to yesterday's close, and yesterday's close is greater than the prior day's close. That would be the 1 there. This would be the 0. This would be the 1, and this will be the 0 here. And the close of the day before yesterday is less than or equal to the day before that. We're using a day of week analysis. We're going to buy on a Monday morning. We're going to exit after the 5th day, including the day of entry. So if we enter on Monday's open, we're going to exit on the subsequent Monday's open, or Tuesday's open if Monday's a holiday. We're going to utilize a $2,450 stop, including the day of entry. So when I go long, I immediately put a stop in at $2,450, and that is good till canceled. Pattern 2 is a short pattern. The binary code for that is 1, 0, 0. If you convert 1, 0, 0 into decimal, you get 4. the number 4. This pattern code for the first one is today's close is less than the prior day's close, less than or equal, I should say. We have another 0, so yesterday's close is less than or equal to the day before that's close. And then the last one is a 1, so the close from the day before yesterday is greater than the prior day's close. Day of week, we're shorting on a Monday morning. We're going to exit after 4th day, including day of entry, so Monday open to Friday open. We're going to use a $1,575 protective stop. Good till cancel. Pattern 3, go long. Pattern binary code is 101, which if you translate that to decimal, that's 5. Pattern code is today's close is greater than the close of yesterday, since we have 1 here. The very far right digit is the today, and we go back into time by going left. The middle digit is 0, so the close of yesterday is less than or equal to the prior day's close. And then we have another 1, and that says C2, which is the close of the day before yesterday is greater than the close prior to that day. Day of week, we're going to buy on Monday morning again. This time we're going to exit after 2nd day, including day of entry. So we go Monday open to Wednesday open. $2,450 stop. Good till cancel, including on the day of entry. Once we go market, we put that order in, or you could go ahead and put this order in. Well, you need to know what the open is, or the entry price. You don't need the open, you just need the entry price, because we're going to try to get the open. Pattern number 4 goes short. Pattern binary code is 101. That's the same as the prior one, so I won't go over that. It's 5. Day of week, here we're shorting on a Wednesday morning, and we're going to exit after the 4th day, including day of entry, so Wednesday open to Tuesday open. And here we're going to use a smaller stop of $1,225. So the thing is, how do you get those 4 patterns to be independent of each other so you can combine them into one trading strategy? And I did that in what I call the P-Smash Sys1 that I include in the Black Friday special. Here's the equity curve that was produced. There is no execution charges for this, but it really doesn't matter because you're averaging $1,407 per trade, and that's incorporating the predictive stops. And you have a substantial drawdown of $26,910. So those are pretty good numbers for that time period. The annual return, let's see, net profit. Let's see what the annual percent. It's only in the market 17.54% of the time. And I don't know the annual. There it is. Annual rate of return is 16.83%, which isn't too shabby. Okay, that's the performance. How do you program this thing? Let's do that real quick. 8 minutes into the video. Let's see what I got here. Let's look at the code. Here we go. That's not the code. That's what I was working on. Basically, you get this code, of course. This is in the Black Friday special. We have the formulas, which is a generic formula that is in the Pattern Smasher. You could use whatever formula you would like. But that has to be built into the standalone strategy where you are combining different patterns. We're going to look at, I change that to 3 in the inputs. My pattern 1 max loss is 17. These are all defaulted, okay? And they're changed, and I'll show you the inputs. But I defaulted them to 1750 for each one, and the number of days to 1 for each pattern. And we went over those, but these are defaulted in the code to 1750 and 1. Now, how can you store the properties of each pattern? Well, the easiest way to do it, and don't let this scare you, I use an array. So I've got a pattern 1 array that consists of 5 elements. Pattern 2 array, which consists of 5 elements as well, or 5 properties. Pattern 3 array, which consists of 5 elements or 5 properties. And I got pattern 4, 5 elements or 5 properties. And I don't know if I'm using these pattern triggers. I'll just set them to false in case I needed them. Pattern 1, and the way you access the elements of the array is you use a subscript. So the pattern 1 array subscript 1 is set to 2. That's the pattern number. Pattern 1 subscript 2, which is the day of week, which is Friday. And since we're executing on the next day after Friday, that would be Monday. So that's how I come up with buying on Monday or selling short on a Monday. Am I buying or shorting? I'm buying. It's a 1. Pattern 1 exit day is the input. This is where you can optimize this value, which I did. And pattern 1.5 is the max loss, which you optimize, which I did, which you can optimize. I have it set in the strategy workspace. We do that for each pattern. So here's pattern 1. We set the properties. These are arrays. You set them one time. That's all you have to do. Pattern 2, pattern 3, and pattern 4. Now this code here is the current bar pattern. This is the engine that determines what the pattern is for the last 3, 4, 5 days, whatever you choose. So this is all just copied and pasted into your strategy. Just if you want to learn what this is, you can read the Pattern Smasher workbook or manual. Order place is false, and I'll tell you why I'm doing that. I get the current day of week. That's important. If the pattern decimal, whatever the pattern of the last 3 days, equals pattern 1, and the current day of the week is equal to pattern 1 subscript 2, is it a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, then I'm going to go ahead and place an order to buy or sell short at the open. So I know I'm going to place an order, so I just go ahead and say order placed is true. I'm going to go ahead and set a stop loss on the day of entry, and that's going to be based on the input pattern 1 subscript 5. Pattern 1 trig is true. If pattern 1 3, what is pattern 1 3? Well, that's your buy or sell short. So we'll go back up here just to make sure. That's pattern, whatever these patterns, and it's the subscript 3. Here, for example, is pattern 1. Subscript 3 is to buy. Pattern 2 is to sell short. Should get those things to work in there. If you're not careful, it collapses them. Pattern 3 is to buy, and of course pattern 4 is to sell short. Okay, let's get back to where we're working. If my pattern matches, if the current 3-day pattern matches one of the 4 patterns, and it's pattern 1 in this case, I place the order. I toggle the order placed to true. I set a stop loss based on the input, which is pattern 1 subscript 5. Turn pattern trigger 1 trig to true. If it's a pattern 1 3 is a 1, which it is, I'm going to buy pattern 1 number 1 buy, next bar at market, and then I hold on to that trade. I go down here and I say, okay, if the following day an order is not going to be placed, which it could be placed, we could sell short if the pattern hits up. Then I'm going to go ahead and look at the bar since entry. If my bar since entry is greater than or equal to pattern 1 subscript 4, which is the number of bars in that pattern, then I'm going to get out of pattern 1 on an L exit, which is the day, which is the bar since entry exit, from entry, pattern 1B. And this has got to match exactly, the string has to be exactly the string that I'm using right here for pattern 1. That's how I tie these together. I connect these patterns together so one pattern cannot override another pattern. Pattern two, how do you say that? Pattern 2, whatever. Say I'm long pattern 1 and pattern 2's bars since entry exit is 2. I don't want to get out on that. I want to get out on whatever belongs to pattern 1. So by tying this with the from entry technology or keywords, I'm tying these entries and exits together. That's if we're long, and that's the bar since entry exit. I'm tying these together. I can't override one for the other. They don't intermix with each other. Here's for the short side. Here's for the long side. This is where I'm using my exit based on a money management stop. I'm going to get out of a pattern 1 on an LXMM if I'm long from entry. Again, here, this pattern number 1 hyphen B has got to be the same name, exact same string as the entry up here. So I can tie it. I want to only exit that entry right here with this exit. And I want to do it at, sorry about that, right here at the entry price minus whatever dollar stop I have associated with pattern number 1. Okay, that's how I tie these together. And I think you need to fully go through the code. And that's all the code. That's all there is to it. That's the entire code for that strategy. You need to go through and see how I set up the properties for each pattern by using these arrays. That's a good way to do it. I could have done it by using, like pattern 1 num, pattern 1 DOW, pattern 1 BORS, pattern 1 exit days, pattern 1 MM, or I could have said pattern, and then I could have said pattern 2 num. But I like using the arrays when I'm grouping like information together in one entity. So we have a pattern 1 array where all the elements of that array are associated with pattern 1. So that's how I was able to derive this. What's really neat about this, you can go in here and edit these strategies. These are the different matches that I used, and I won't want to go into detail on how I do that. You need to understand Pattern Smasher, the framework. But I went in here, and this is where you can do your optimizations. You can optimize pattern 1 max loss. You can optimize exit days from 1 to 4. Max loss for pattern 2. Exit days for pattern 2. Pattern max loss for pattern 3. Exit days for pattern 3. Max loss for pattern 4. And exit days for pattern 4. And if you do this, you're going to see something. You're going to see 3 million iterations. And if you ran this over 3 million iterations on an exhaustive approach, it would take a lot of time. So we're going to use a genetic optimizer here. I'm just going to run it. I think I'm looking at 10 years of history, or 8 years of history. 8 or 10 years, I can't remember, but it is in the workspace. And this takes very, very few seconds because we're dealing with daily bars. And as you'll see, it'll probably come up with similar numbers to the ones that I have produced already and have included in the Black Friday special manual. Okay, well that does it. Let's let this thing pop up and we shall see the performance numbers. We can also let's look at the optimization numbers. Maybe you don't like the our objective is to get the max profit up as high as we can. What if we want to get the max drawdown as low as we can? Well, here's something that produced a nice profit. This row right here did. So had a nice average trade too. So that's something you can play around with. But I wanted to show you how I could combine different patterns into one strategy. I had a couple of questions concerning that. Okay, I appreciate it, and I hope you find this useful.